everybody. Today we're joined by CEO Robb Fahrion, CRO Brennan Smith, and our paid media specialist, Christos Athanasiadis. Today we're diving into all things holiday marketing and advertising, the strategies, the trends, and the big opportunities this season brings. So the holiday season is here, and we all know this is when people spend the most. The U.S. Census Bureau reported that retail sales during the 2024 holiday season hit a record around $94 billion, nearly $1 trillion spent in just 2 months. And according to Advertising Week, about 75% of retail small and medium-sized businesses rely heavily on holiday sales just to meet their annual goals, which is huge for both consumers and companies. As business owners in the marketing and advertising space, I'm curious with the companies you've worked with, what separates the brands that truly thrive during the holidays from the ones that just get by?
Yeah. One, I would say it's having a plan of attack is one of the most important things, not only just for, the, let's call it November to December rush, but for a 12-month period. Because not only would you like to be aggressive during these times where people are active most and are thinking of shopping or purchasing online, but you want to also scale and allocate your budget properly if you're a seasonal based client. So that's where we've seen people either be successful or not successful, is not having enough to spend during these times and getting washed out from other brands that do have a lot of budget to allocate during these times. And then we've seen brands be very successful because they have maybe pulled back in the slower periods of their season and really focused on scaling that budget while the iron's hot, as that saying goes. So yeah, I think more or less the consumer nowadays is very much so trained to know when there are certain sales, when there are large deals that they can take advantage of. And depending on your price point, those users are going to stick towards those trends versus trying to acquire them, say, in March, just because you wanted to do a sale then. So we tend to plan out not only, quarterly for our clients, but also yearly for not only just ad spend, but how we're going to push consistent sales, but then also take advantage when sales like times like they are today and Black Friday coming up and Cyber Monday, and then you have the holiday rush. You really want to make sure that you have your clients set up for success, as well as allocating enough spend there.
I think the ones that I've seen perform the best have long-term growth in mind as well. And so what I mean by that is, yes, you're going to have a holiday season. For us, though, myself, Brennan, Christos, certain clients are a rush in the holidays. Other clients are a rush in the summer based on products they sell. So for us, it's really just supply and demand. And the point being is that it really is the companies that have structure to capitalize not just on that 3-month or 2-month sprint, November, December, but they're also thinking long-term for next year at the same time. And then they're also saying, okay, we know there's going to be a huge influx of advertisers, shoppers, supply demand on both sides. How do I squeeze every ounce out of what I'm doing now in November and December to help me in January, February, March? So a lot of times it's yes about product sales, yes about hitting those revenue numbers, but also about, hey, make sure you're getting new followers on Instagram, getting new email subscribers to your email list, right? So then next year, when you're going for that reacquisition, when they're coming back to buy, hopefully you're able to sell before pre-sale type stuff. You build loyalty programs, discounts, etc. And so they are thinking that long term, not just every Christmas, November, December. It's just a scramble for what are we going to do this year? No, it's just, as Brennan said, really, it doesn't matter. November, December, April, May, June, July, every month can be a good month. And then again, every business has different seasonalities, and some are very slow in November, December. So I think you just need to take out November, December, think long-term, big picture.
Yeah, I think it's understanding there's 2 great values to this time of year. One is you can generate a lot of revenue in a very short period of time, but it's also the area where you could probably get your customer acquisition cost the lowest, because they're actively going to be searching for something within your target market, within those deals, and they're actively able and ready to give you their information. Yeah. And now making sure that that client is set up for success once you have that information, whether that's creating lookalike audiences of your customer or exact match audiences for those slower months, right? Because then this person had hopefully a good experience with us during Black Friday to Christmas time sale. Now let's throw something else at them. So that customer acquisition, I think, is probably the lowest at any time of the year, and making sure that our clients know of that and take advantage of that as well as the revenue generation is really important as well.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also important to just like understand what you're doing before and after the sales, because obviously people are not just gonna be ready to buy and be waiting for the sale. You have to make them aware of the sale. You have to let them know, okay, this is what's coming up. Because if you just launch, I mean, it's different when it comes to online game versus the retail game. Whereas people will walk into a store, they'll see a sale, they'll buy it immediately. But when it comes to the online side of things, it's like people have to be educated. People have to know what's coming up. And then I think also what's really important is what you do post-sale. So like I'll take Black Friday for an example. The sales and revenue might be high, but maybe the profit margins are not as high. So like, yes, you may be getting a lot of sales, a lot of people in the door, but how much money are you actually making from it? Probably it's probably not peak. It's probably minimal of like your profit margins.
It is. Yeah.
So then I would say the thing that would be most important is now what you do with these customers once they're in the door. Okay, you've got them to buy something. Maybe are you going to retarget them through email over a 3-month period and try cross-reference your other products, your higher profit project? Or just like, what are you going to do to reactivate these clients and just kind of keep them bringing a steady flow of revenue in the future? So, yeah.
And I think that could determine too, like how much cash are you willing to burn during the holiday seasons, right? Because it might be a situation where if you have this consistency and you know that, hey, that there might be a spike in just organic demand, if you've already been consistently running across the other months and treating those all the same, you'll actually just see, net benefits versus, again, it being a rush and putting all your eggs into the holiday basket, right? So I think that's something we've always focused on is long-term strategy across many months. All months are the same because we're engaging, interacting on a day-to-day basis and looking at what's happening at that particular time. This Christmas is different than last Christmas. Right? Economy's in a different place. Policy's different. Buyer sentiments are different. All those things. So, that's also stuff that comes into play that maybe you just, are able to keep it consistent. And then the holiday organically just picks up and spikes, but you're really making the profit, in those other 9-10 months because you are going to be more profitable. You don't have to slash prices, right? You don't have to offer all these crazy incentives for people to buy. And then I think that also gets into probably product value too and what it is you're selling and whether or not it's commoditized.
Yeah. And for a lot of businesses, holiday ads feel more expensive and harder to win. Brennan, what causes CPMs to skyrocket during November and December? And is it worth it for smaller brands to advertise heavily during the holidays?
Yeah, to your first part, it's supply and demand, right? There's more brands that know that, hey, this is the time where we, like what we just talked about, we can maximize either our client acquisition costs at our lowest rate, or we can generate a lot of revenue at a quick time period. So there's just a lot more people within a phrase from our first episode, playing within the playground, right? And so that line's going to be longer, or you can pay to get your way to the front of the line to go down the slide to keep it within that metaphor, right? So there's just more people, and so that's where Google, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, they all leverage. Hey, we have this customer that you want to get in front of during this exact time. Now it's going to cost more, right? So simple supply and demand from reasons why costs go up. In terms of does it make sense for a small brand? I would say it's a weighted question in terms of it depends on how much are you willing to spend to acquire a client, right? Some people are even willing to run the entire Black Friday at a net loss, knowing that, okay, we may be, let's just say, losing $100 per TV that we're selling, but we know now that we're going to get them on every download to that TV or every frame or addition that they can put onto that device. TV may not be the best example, but in terms of a lot of these tech companies or even clothing brands, right? They know that if they can maybe lose $10 on a jacket, they know they're going to get you back to come in and buy a purse or even more. It's really depends in terms of how much you're willing to pay to acquire that customer, because I think there is a lot of long-term value that goes kind of unseen from the consumer eye. They think they're just getting a quick win when they don't realize, hey, this person's probably got me now for a lot longer because I'm attached to their brand, because I had a positive experience. I got a good deal. I got the win. But now maybe, hey, now I'm a Lululemon shopper now, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of depends.
I like it as almost, more of an informational gain period than product sales for the reason we're talking about. Yeah, you're going to sell higher revenue and volume, probably maybe trying to move inventory at the end of the year to get that off the books or whatever the goal might be. But again, it's like, okay, even if you're driving 1,000 visitors to the website, you're probably converting, I don't know what, e-com,
50.
probably 5-10% to a purchase, right? But it's like, okay, we might be able to capture 20-30% of their emails, because again, the likelihood that if you're just reliant on paid media to spike over a period when attention and demand is at a premium, long term, it's just not going to be effective. That's where you need to think about lifetime value of the customer, right? Retention, repeat purchases, and then knowing that, hey, this first time as a small business that we're running ads, maybe we just focus on information gain, right? What do our customers like? What do they not like? Can we capture their information? Since they don't know us this year, then okay, over the next 6, 7, 8 months, we need to educate them on why next year don't even consider elsewhere, buy from us because we have this or that or whatever. And that's where obviously you're working messaging, copywriting, brand positioning, those things, and are not just becoming what I've seen in the e-commerce space become a game where how much cash can we burn while keeping as much cash as possible at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like you said, increasing the lifetime value of key people. It's like we almost have to look at your brand as like an asset. The more that you input into your brand, the more that you're able to do with it again. So it's like, once again, those post-purchase flows, you're building your email marketing list because people are coming in cheaper than ever. So that email marketing list is super valuable because you can market to those people forever until they unsubscribe. Hopefully they don't unsubscribe. But that list is super important. You need to treat it like an asset. And the more people you have in that, the more you're able to get organic sales through email marketing. The bigger your remarketing audience goes, and that's where a lot of the high profitability ads come in, was when you start targeting people that have already touched base with your brand. But yeah, I think it's just about, as you said, Rob, increasing that lifetime value and what you're doing post sale and pre-sale.
Brennan has more experience on the meta side, so want to frame the question for you, and I might have a little understanding, but like in terms of, Christos was mentioning the retargeting, right? I mean, the next year, if we have that list and can go in and say, hey, I want to go after this specific audience, that can also help us from a strategic standpoint, right? Versus just trying to, hey, carve out across this big, broad audience where around Christmas time there are so many more advertisers going for those same people, because it's like, okay, you could be selling insurance, great. You could also, and that again, just maybe there's no Christmas insurance options, but you could also be selling a basketball around Christmas. You're competing for the same eyeballs because someone might want both.
Yeah, I would say the value there is, I guess I use too many fishing analogies, but it's like you're fishing in the ocean and you have a good successful first go at it, right? And now the next year when everyone's going out in the same ocean for that tournament, let's just call Black Friday and Cyber Monday a tournament, now there's a hot spot to the right that you can just go to and fish there versus fishing everywhere, right?
Right.
That's the concept of retargeting and having that custom audience, is that you're taking the whole entire ocean, you're narrowing it down to exactly who you want to go after, which is one, we always want to be testing here. So we're going to build out an exact match audience of people that had a great experience with Black Friday or Cyber Monday last year. And then two, let's build a lookalike audience off of them and then run with that, right? You could even do an interest-based to do a third test there. But yeah, the whole value of that information goes a lot longer than 3 months out of email marketing. You can utilize it throughout the whole entire year, if not exactly the same time the next year, to really dive into a seasonal-based targeted audience versus just a holistic interest-based audience.
And Brennan, how can brands protect their budget from getting burned during the holiday season?
Yeah, I would say sometimes you can hurt yourself by being too exact with your audience, but sometimes the complete opposite. If you're too wide, you hurt yourself as well. So I would steer clear of allowing these platforms at this current rate with technology to just take your budget and say, hey, go put this in front of who Google or who Meta thinks is our exact audience. And the ways that you would do that would be some of the things we talked about today, which is using our past purchasers to put in our audience pool, creating an audience that maybe looks just like them or a lookalike audience on Meta. So rather than having, to Christos' point, you have such a short window, you need to make sure you're either doing a very good job of trying to warm up a new audience before the sale and then sell them, or you can be effective in a short window if you have a small budget by only showing your sale to customers that have already purchased with you. Because then you don't have to familiarize them with the brand. They know, okay, I've shopped here before. Now they have a cool deal. I need to take advantage of it. So I would make sure that you're definitely, depending on how long you want to have your campaign, is making sure that your audience aligns with it.
I think too, if you're listening to this podcast and wanting to advertise like for Christmas 25, it's probably too late, right? If you like haven't done anything already too. So again, I think it really does go back to that planning or just having the consistency of marketing and advertising running to where at this time, okay, you kind of already do know within reason, this kind of works, this doesn't work. This was our best seller from May till June, July, August, whatever the period is. And then, okay, we're going to carve that as maybe a special product category that we want to focus around the holidays because people liked it. There was good response, whatever that might be. So I think that's where, again, it is planning. And a lot of times clients, even our most experienced they forget that these systems are not, I use water. We like water. Maybe that's what it is, Brennan. A boat analogy in that these systems are cruise ships. They're not speedboats. And so what I mean by that is speedboats, hey, you want to turn around and go the other way on a speedboat? Boom, no problem, right? Go the other way, you're off to the races. Cruise ship, turn a cruise ship around, that takes time, that takes energy. And these systems work more that way because it's big data. It needs consistency. It's reading information algorithms. When things change, it disrupts. It makes it harder to turn a cruise ship around if the seas are rocky and it doesn't know the terrain or whatever versus in a port where things are stable. And people forget that a lot of times. Or old hose. You don't just turn the hose on and immediately water flies out like a brand new hose. These platforms are like old hoses. You have to warm them up. You got to get them going before they really start to work. And you could probably talk. I think the other day we were talking, was it liquid alk? One of our clients. Yeah, about what we did with, and then like some of the improvements we just saw, but had been running for some time.
Yeah. So I mean, it comes like, especially with D2C brands. Brennan, you brought this up when we were talking about Liquid Alchemist. Was just like you need to take into account the fulfillment period of your product. So it's like, how long is the shipping going to take to get to the client? And then you also need to take into account, like, okay, when are people going to be Thanksgiving shopping? They're not going to be Thanksgiving shopping probably the week of Thanksgiving. Maybe it's going to be a week or two where they're preparing.
And this is can you give a little color on the client and what they sell?
Yeah, so Liquid Alchemist, they're a cocktail mix. They basically sell premium cocktail mixes. I've got a whole bunch of different flavors, some that are seasonal, some that are not, some that are just generic. But yeah, I mean, so we've been running a lot of holiday sales for them and we've seen some pretty good results, actually great results in terms of ROAS. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you just got to time it correctly. And like Rob said, you have to warm it up. You can't just turn the hose on and expect it to be going crazy. Or if you're launching, let's say, a new seasonal campaign, is it on Google? If it's on Google, maybe it has to go through a learning phase. Maybe the algorithm has to calibrate in terms of the differences in demand and just a bunch of things. So you do have to take it incrementally and you do have to plan ahead and just make sure.
A lot of what I'm hearing is exactly what you just finished with, is having a plan, having a strategy, right? You can't just turn this on and expect it to work. So yeah, unfortunately, if you're watching this video, you're too late.
And if it's next year,
they could come back.
If it's after, start planning now. Yeah.
But yeah, there are so many. It's all industry and client dependent, right? There's different times of the year, or there's different ways you can target your audience too. I think the biggest value outside of just the Black Friday and Cyber Monday rush is building out a cult following of people if you're going to be in the e-com space. Because at the end of the day, if you wanted to turn on a January first 50% off because, and you can target your exact audience and just do that and say, hey, because you're part of our email list, you're the only person that knows about this. And here's the code, use it today only. Right. It all depends on the data you have and the following you have. So, and that's the whole thing in which we like to obviously take advantage of these short win time periods, but it's also setting up our clients for the 12-month and year-long success versus the quick wins. So that's the real focus here is, take advantage of the current time, but also set it up for the future.
I think it's not to say that you can't be successful in a short period of time too. It's just expectations as well, right? So, okay, you want to get something up, spun fast, and you want to target wide demo. You're going to probably need a lot of budget. Right? Yeah. To get that stuff out there that quick. Or, hey, if you do have a small budget, but you really know who you're pinpoint, and there's no guarantee that this might work, you're at least going to have a better chance and a better opportunity with realistic targeting, right? So a lot of times it's like e-commerce, we want to target everybody in the United States, we can ship everywhere. Yeah, but 97% of your sales are in 3 states over the last 10 years. Let's just put all of our budget in those 3 states, and maybe we carve out 1 or 2 others that we think are interesting markets, right? So again, now going back to the information gain, at least you're able to validate certain things, learn, understand. So then for next year, don't make that mistake, or no, hey, we did run the test on, California, New York, and Texas are our 3 markets. We ran Arizona and Kansas, whatever. I don't know why I picked Kansas, and Arizona won. We're going to scrap Kansas. Keep Arizona in the primaries this year and add in 2 more to test, right? And so I think, again, that's where we're really helping strategy, making sure you're put in a position to success. I don't know how many times I've heard Brennan say, no, don't do that because you're just going to burn cash. You're just going to burn cash, right? So that's, I think, a lot of times where we're trying to protect or at least build some sort of long-term capture to maximize value of the information.
Yeah,
that's the asset. Right. And we talk about it like creating liquidity out of your exposure and information. I want to go offer a sale. Boom. I can send it to 100,000 emails that I've collected, not just purchasers, which I only have 1,000 of over the last year, 2 years. Right. So think about information. That's the true value, not the purchases from a lot of this paid stuff a lot of times.
We kind of harp on being a data-driven, ROI-focused agency, and I think that's exactly what it is. And this is a perfect example to kind of show that. Yes, you can be a new company in your first year and put $20,000 into a Black Friday campaign, maybe get X on it, hopefully, right? Or you can have a strategic plan that you've built up and an audience that you've built up, and that 2X can be 6X, right? It's all about how fast can we analyze the data and come with a great hypothesis of what that audience looks like. If you put that over a 5-day period, that's going to be hard and you're going to have to spend a lot of money to analyze. But if you put that over a 5-month period, we're going to analyze and understand that audience and who that customer is, how they act. Maybe they're not in Kansas. Maybe they're only in Arizona, right? And that allows us to be more successful during these aggressive times. Mm-hmm. So to Robb's point, you could be successful in spinning something up, but it's going to cost you a lot. And that actual customer knowledge acquisition is probably a lot more, even though you're acquiring maybe a cheap customer, but the cost to get there is a lot higher than if you were to do your homework and strategize 6 months in advance of who that person is and how they act, in advance.
And long-term, short-term, we talk about this too. And again, so those are factors that we're coming in and looking at. Okay, I've got $50,000. I want to come in and run a holiday campaign for the next 3 months. Have never advertised before, brand new brand. Okay, great. What if we also set it up like 30,000, 60% of that budget, and then we hedge over a longer term strategy that's a monthly burn of cash at a much slower rate that will create longer term, right, dividends and results. So again, long-term thinking, compounding, exponential growth. I mean, kind of all the basics of like wealth generation. We're just applying it to traffic generation concepts.
And so now that we're closing out the year, what should businesses be doing right now to end strong and prepare for Q1?
Should be hiring us. No.
That's a given.
Right now. Go Miranda.
What should doing to end the year strong is the question. Well, they should have been planning out the end of the year 2 months ago, right? Is the first response I would say here. And if they aren't, then you're kind of shooting from the hip until the end of the year, right? For the next 30 days. Half of the market's shut down. To Christos' point on one of our conversations, we're shutting down some of our clients' ads 18th, I think, of December because you just can't ship a product out there, right? So that leaves, with Thanksgiving, maybe a 2-week window from here until when you can't ship anything, right? So you're kind of frozen, and I would be focusing on what I can do for middle of January. I never would want a client to think of how can I finish the year strong on November 25th, right? We always want to think, and we plan with our clients. It's not a bad question, but like in terms of our clients, we always want to plan forward, right? We always want to know. Right now, we're talking to our clients about what we're doing for that cocktail syrup, dry January. What does that look like? What does that look like for February? And we want to be 2-3 months out because not only do we want to get the campaigns ready and all that, but we also want to have a strategy behind it. We don't want to just half-ass it, for the lack of a better phrase. Is you want to have an audience that is fine-tuned, that maybe shopped during dry January, for this example, that we could have content and ads and creative created. So yeah, I would tell the person to give Miranda a call if you're in a rush. But no, I think, always having a 2 to 3 month, window of knowing what's already coming up, if not even larger, is how we look at things. And that's how I would recommend people to start planning out, especially from a digital, because it is such a fast changing world, not only from rules and regulations and bidding strategy and all that, but there's just so many different ways you can be effective within it. I mean, people are more and more starting to realize that. So the competition's always evolving too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think it comes down to, like, when it comes down to ending the year strong, it's all about using and leveraging the asset that you've built up. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like, are you leveraging your email list? Are you leveraging your clients? Because a lot of people may now know of you, but they haven't been ready to pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. At the end of the year, that's when people actually have maybe a little bit more disposable income. That's when they're spending a little bit more. That's when they're in market, or maybe they've been waiting for this period to purchase something because they know, okay, end of the year, that's when the sales come. I mean, yeah. So it would be the lowest friction in order to get quick conversions towards the end of the year, is just leverage the people that have already showed interest. Maybe you want to up your remarketing budget. Maybe you want to send out a few more emails educating people on what's going on during the December break. But that's where, because otherwise you would have to go warm up an audience, go from cold to warm, from warm to hot. And these people have already done that. They're already in your market. They're just waiting for a good time to pull the trigger. So I would say the highest ROI would just be leveraging the asset that you've built up.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Christos, is leveraging what you have, but almost tripling it or quadrupling it because of how.
Yeah, that you've already been doing.
One email during this time of the year is almost like a fourth of an email, right? Because everyone else is leveraging their stuff too, right? So you have to constantly one up your emails, your social posting, your texts, whatever you're doing currently. If you want to finish strong, I would quadruple everything that you're doing, and then give Miranda a call and have Flying V Group help you.
Yeah, that's going to be the theme. I think like a low-hanging one, since you're going to have probably inherently just more traffic to the website, or doing more activities through social media or community, however you generate interest, is again that email capture. And a way to do that we use is ConvertFlow. ConvertFlow.com makes it very simple, or if not simple, we can help. But set up, you can do a pop-up, offer 15%, 20% off. You can, just, hey, we're giving away this information if you're a B2B company, whatever it might be, free value. That's a really good tool if ads or like big budgets or you're a little bit behind. And then I think just my recommendation, whether it's holidays or spring or back to school, there's a sell. Yes, a lot is consolidated into Christmas and Hanukkah and all the different holidays now. But I mean, it's America, consumer, right? It's Easter, you've got Valentine's Day, whatever else, right? There's so many other periods. So it's like, take where you're at now and go backwards 3 months and say, where should I have been 3 months ago? And then that's how you kind of can start to build your strategy, right? And then you can know like, okay, well, I want to run ads, but I don't have an email list. Well, then don't run ads now. Start building an email list now, or make that your primary focus. And then, okay, maybe you don't capitalize this year, but next year you are ready to go, right? Or you're much more confident, or you can double down on that spend at that point in time, and be more matter of fact and intentful on what you want to do. And again, I think outside of holiday shopping, I think the secondary theme here is you have to be planning your budgets 12 months, 18 months, 20. The longer out you can go in marketing, the better. Further out you can go, the better.
I think another important point as well with these holiday specials is that it's not only of generating revenue, but in a sense, it's almost also protecting your brand, because of the fact that during holiday seasons, consumer intent is at its highest. People are looking to spend money. People are looking to shop. If you're not running any of these sales, you actually risk your brand. And maybe they come to your site, they don't see a Black Friday offer. Okay, let me go check out a competitor site. So it's like, it's almost protecting your market share, because if you don't offer it, somebody else is going to be doing it, or somebody else is going to be offering it. So it's also important just to keep your current audience happy, and your current, just keep them happy and maintain your market share, because that's what you want at the end of the day, is the highest percent of the market. And if you don't do these things, other people will for sure be doing them, which that leaves a vulnerability of people maybe switching to another brand,
or that's the gap you find, is looking at your competitors and being like, oh wow, they're all offering the same thing. You know, maybe you do something a little different, right? Or their offers are no good, or they're not offering anything. You know, there are a lot of companies too that just they just do the thing all the time.
That's all through having a plan, having a strategy, right? And that you don't do that type of research on Black Friday, right? You do that and you look at prior year Black Fridays from competitor analysis, right? So yeah, all good points. I think a reoccurring theme here is strategy.
Yeah.
Always looking in advance, but also crawl, walk, run, sprint, right? Start with an email list if you don't have anything, right? Start there. Grab names, phone numbers, emails. Start there.
Right.
Offer free shipping, something. You don't have to break the bank, right? You don't have to give away if you're just a startup. So, it's a very interesting time, but also a great time to take advantage from an e-commerce perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was a great conversation for business owners that have questions regarding marketing and advertising. But I think this will be getting posted after Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone had an amazing Thanksgiving and a happy holidays. Thank you guys so much for joining, and tune into the next episode.
Thanks so much, Miranda.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, everyone.